Hi everyone, welcome back to episode 8 of Zeutians. I hope you're doing well. I hope your week has been good. I am doing a lot better. This cold is still kind of with me. I'm still a little bit chesty and a little bit, I'm suffering still a little bit, let's say, with the cold, but I'm suffering more with my AS, my ankylosing spondylitis is flaring up. And it's funny, when that flares, the PTSD triggers come, and it's turned into my those two things have turned into my invisible enemies, if you like. But I'm trying to flip the script. I'm trying to do what I can to work my way through it, to do my stretching. I use some techniques for breathing. I stretch on average probably about 30 to 40 times a day, and I am trying to get back into working out regularly, although it is difficult. But the work unfortunately the work I'm able to get is very physical. So I do crewing, building all sorts of different things on events, whether it be stages, it could be just driving, it could be lugging TVs around and building them, or sound equipment. It really depends on what the event is, but it tends to be physical, and I'm not really prepared to go back into hospitality at this point in my life. I think now it asks way too much than it pays in rewards. So yeah. I'll tell you a little story about the PTSD and the AS. Actually, last week I did a shift, and it broke me. It was a really, really long day, really strenuous, really hard. I think in total I probably did about near on 16 hours. And it happens, right, in that industry, and you rarely get any breaks. But I'm grateful for the work, don't get me wrong, I'm really grateful. I can't do that much, but for what I get, I'm very grateful. Anyway, I had an experience where I came home and I was absolutely battered, physically just in pain, really hurting. Took some meds and did a load of stretching and had some food and started to feel a bit better, and thought, how nice it would be to listen to some messages from Mariana that I had in my WhatsApp, that I hadn't listened to for a long time. I'd sort of shied away from listening to them, and I think in one way it was because I was scared. I was so afraid of what it opened up, hearing her voice and listening to those messages. Anyway, I finally built up the courage this day, after feeling so bad with my back and like basically with AS, ankylosing spondylitis. I suffer with lots of inflammation, and it will get worse and worse, and it's chronic. There's no cure to it, but eventually my joints will fuse, like parts of my spine, and I've already got arthritis in my hips and my shoulders and my neck, so I am a little worse for wear, but I'm battling through it, and I'm determined not to be a victim to it. Anyway, so this one day I've thought, how great it would be to be inspired again and hear her voice, and I built up the courage to do it, and I went through the phone, and WhatsApp have removed 90% of the messages that she sent me, which was heartbreaking. I did hear her voice, and it was funny. One of the first message I found was her pretending to do a fart. So yeah, and it, like, in that sense, the first reaction I had to looking and experiencing looking for hearing her voice again made me laugh, and that's exactly what I needed. So yeah, I'm learning to use these tricks, these hacks, if you like, to turn my trials and tribulations into wins, because I don't have any other choice. And I do. That's not true. I do. The other choice would be to admit defeat and to be a victim to it all, and to do nothing. And I'm not prepared to live that way anymore. I've got far more important things to get on with. In a way, Mariana's message became my mantra through these 9 years. her message on the final days of her life, when she was, I mean, kind of out of it, but the moments I felt, and I said that before in episodes 4 and 5, when I talk about, you know, the real circumstances around her death. But the message then, if you haven't seen it, by the way, go back and watch it. I'll put a link in. The message was, it's all about love, Bubba. And that has changed my life. I use that mantra now to keep myself going, to remember that she's become a part of me, and, you know, remember that I have a life to live, not only for her memory, but for mine, for my future, for myself, you know. And it doesn't have, obviously, the resemblance of what I hoped and what we hoped for as a couple, but it still has to mean something. I do use it as a mantra, as a way to move forward, as an inspirational tool to get me through difficult moments. And that moment was tough, you know, finding that 90% of her messages, and the fucking message WhatsApp put on was, please ask the sender to resend the messages. Yeah, if only. Anyway, I was grateful for what I got, and I did hear a couple of her messages that I needed to hear, and yeah, they were lovely. I felt like then it was a double punch, and now looking back on it, I've learned how to separate them, and I've learned how to use my mantras and my techniques, whether it be the grounding, whether it be stretching for, you know, relieving my back or releasing tension through my body, or whether it be repeating Murray's messages. These are things that have helped me so much and given me the guidance that I needed to get through the really difficult and tough moments. I began to learn how to use her mantras as shields. You know, I began to learn how to use them as protection against triggers, against difficulties, against random last minute changes that would occur. And these things are difficult when you've got post-traumatic stress disorder. Last minute changes, you know, like crowds, having to plan a lot, and, you know, build up the courage takes a lot, and it asks a lot. When scenarios change last minute, I find it really difficult. I still to this day find it really difficult to cope. That exercise of exercising that mantra message in my head, and hearing her voice, and hearing her, you know, the other thing that she used to say when she came home from work, and we'd talk about every night, would be, what do we have to be grateful for today? And we'd have a discussion on it. And you know, I do apply that still in everyday scenarios throughout the day, throughout what happens. But I have that conversation with myself regularly. These battles are they don't define me, but I use them to win. You know, I use them to feel like I'm winning something, and I am. I'm achieving more than, now at this point in my life, more than I have done arguably in the last 9 years. You know, I'm confident again. I found hope. I told you that before in a few previous episodes ago, that you know, I found the ability to have hope again for myself, and that seemed so far away. And that's something that is different for everyone. But I would say that it will come. You know, that grief isn't a consistent ride up, but with the years that you've accumulated, experiencing and acclimatizing yourself to the triggers you have, and to how you are becoming accustomed to bearing this unbearable outcome, but you are stronger for it. And I remind myself of that. And you know, as a survivor, I've made it this far, and I'm proud of that. I credit a lot of the reasons that I survived is because I had Zels to care for. I had a big distraction in him, and you know, he gave me purpose for a long time, and that's changed now. I don't have him in it, and for a long time I was so scared of losing him and how I would cope. I remember that was the initial thought for the first few years, was what would happen, how would I go through this all again, losing him on top of losing Murray. And you know, in the years that I've survived and been a widower, I've managed to accept the inevitability of death, and I think I've become much closer to it, you know, and unafraid of. I don't think I was afraid of death before, but unafraid of the impact that it would have now. I think my faith has helped me a lot in understanding and discovering that he and Murray are now rejoicing together. They're together. And I think I always believed that even before I found my faith. It's just reinforced it. And the same with, you know, like the recent passing of my uncle. You know, I'm rejoicing in the fact that he's with the Lord, and he would have done the same thing. I guess my experience in therapy has given me some tools, as well as using the mantras. I use like a grounding technique for when I have flashbacks. I mean, the flashbacks that happen during the day. So I tend to do like tapping on my hand, or just like flicking on my wrist. And that's helped a lot through the years, but I still get lots and lots of flashbacks at night, through the night, and that's still difficult. I will keep fighting and trying to find solutions to that, because it is difficult. I find it so difficult to get a good deep sleep, because they just keep like these tremors, these night terrors keep coming back, and then, you know, I do get flashbacks through the night. It's not all bad though. Sometimes I get nice dreams, very rarely, but sometimes. The tools that I've got in my armoury have helped me more than anything. These tools I'm working on, and I've continued, I will continue to work on and continue to use. They're irreplaceable and invaluable. And these battles, like I said before, these battles don't define me. I win them. What have you guys won? What's your win? I'd love to hear about what you guys are struggling with, and if there's any of you that relate to, I guess, the double punch of having multiple things to deal with, you know, in the sense of I've got PTSD and AS, and it's difficult. I think I'll try and wrap it up there for this one, guys. I think the message today is just be strong and recognize the tools that you've developed and that you've yet to develop, and have the strength and the knowledge that I'm sharing with you, and I hope you do feel that. I really mean it. This isn't something that I'm just guessing away at. I genuinely believe that whatever point in your journey of grief you're in, these are tools that will come to you, whether they're naturally or whether you'll seek therapy, which I hope you will. It doesn't help all the time, but it helped me. I don't have therapy sessions at the moment, but I still do attend some group sessions. And, you know, I'd say just have hope again. And if you can't realise that now, just trust in the words and voice of another who's been through it and continues to go through it, that it will come back in drips and drabs, but it will. And you owe it to the memory of your loved ones to keep fighting. And I see you, and I hear you, and I'm with you. And I hope you join me for the next one. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. I would really appreciate the support, especially the shares and the comments and the likes. It would really help. Episode 9 will be here in a week. And again, apologies about the delay of this one. The technical glitches have meant that I'm filming in my mum's lovely kitchen with her lovely garden on display. I don't know if it will continue. It may continue. Whatever, I will welcome you back next time. Take care, everybody. Have a great week. Bye now.